everybody. Welcome to the Sharon and Joe Show. My name is Sharon.
Greetings. Welcome, guys and gals. My name is Joe.
Oh, Joe has a better greeting than I have. Hi, everybody. Hi, y'all.
Like
That's a bad one,
South?
yeah. It's the only accent I can do other than a Boston accent.
A Southern accent?
Yeah.
Okay, do a Southern accent. Say
God.
something other than
All right.
y'all.
All right, hold on. Let me think, though. I'm going to say y'all at the beginning to get it
Okay.
going, right? Hey, y'all. How you doing? I'm going to be getting myself some Southern Comfort right
That
now.
is awesome. I didn't know you had a Southern accent. Where did you learn that from?
That's self-taught.
Wow. So Sharon has a Southern accent. I just found out about. She knows how to speak French and Hebrew and what else? And then you have the old Boston accent that you intentionally got rid of.
I actually, you know what, you guys? I slipped last night in front of Joe's son, and he didn't know what I was saying, remember?
Yeah, what did you say? We were eating, we all were eating together as a family, which is a wonderful thing to do. And Sharon was getting out the silverware. And
Yeah.
How did you say it?
All right, ready, guys? I said silverware. And he was
Silver.
like, what? Like, in
He's
Paris.
like, is there such a thing as a silva? Is that, how do you spell it? No, he's like, how do you spell silverware?
He was so
He was
confused.
confused. He's like, silver.
He was like, geez, I thought I knew this word.
So then any words that end with an R, like ka, ba, that's how you say it?
Yeah, and it was like, there's other words too that you add R's to the end of it. You guys, I grew up in the Boston area, right outside of Boston, and I had a thick Boston accent, like ugly. No offense, like I know that sounds horrible.
That sounds cool. I like the Boston accent. I think it sounds cool. The one accent, there's nothing against the New Yorkers because I got a lot of friends on Long Island, but I can't stand that damn accent. We have an accent for them, but.
You know what it is? Like the Boston accent, it sounds to me like tough. Like just like, I don't know, like tough in a negative way, I guess is what it is.
Like lower class?
Yeah. I think that way about it. And I didn't know I had an accent. I had no idea until I moved out of the area and people were commenting. Actually, some people would say I was from Britain. I had like a thick accent. It was horrible.
Well, now I didn't know you could talk Southern accent, so that's cool.
Well, I try to speak very clearly, and I don't like to have an accent. I'm like really into proper pronunciation and
Sharon's
that type of
like
thing.
Sharon is just she is just a professional all the way around, self-taught. She teaches her kids. She's got a PhD. Like the woman's no joke. And I was just telling her, I was like, you're like a power example for me in pretty much all walks of life. So God wants me to better myself, so He brought Sharon into my life.
Oh, you guys, that is like so sweet. Joe flatters me, but he's the best guy in the world.
Thank you.
That's the truth.
What do we want to do tonight? We were done. Did we talk about our garden that we planted yet?
No, I posted a
we
little bit
said
on the
something a little
community page. Maybe we did. I can't remember. We did it. It was last weekend, right?
Yeah. There's so much to do, guys. I got to power wash my house. I got to clean the outside windows, clean the inside windows. We got a deep clean spring. It's just in the garden and mulching and flowers were part of it. And man, did we bust our butts last weekend and got it done. We planted our garden and we got all kinds of different kinds of peppers because the kids like hot stuff. We got tomatoes, cucumber, squash, zucchini. What's that? Those onions that grow in those.
Oh, we're growing chives. We have oregano, parsley. So we have Italian parsley. We have oregano. We have cilantro. Basil. Yeah, we have 2 basil plants. We get the chickens, so we get fresh eggs, right?
Yeah.
Look at us. And then we have a ton of flowers too.
My mentor, one of my dearest friends when I got sober, he highly suggested, he was like, you got to build your relationship with the God of your understanding at first. And I was praying and I was complaining because that was happening. He goes, Joe, you can pray for potatoes all you want, but until you pick up the shovel and you dig them and you water them, ain't no damn potatoes going to grow.
That's true. I like that. You said that before. I think
It's
that's
the truth.
See, this is a thing in Joe's recovery. No, I didn't know Joe till much later when you were in recovery for a long time. For whatever reason, I think it was God. It is amazing to me. I mean, I know I've told you privately this. Like, I think it's amazing the people that you just happened, to get in contact with because they're like brilliant. And just the way that they say things, I've learned things from this like 20 years later.
I walked on the hills of spiritual giants. When I got sober when I was 25 years old, God put some really incredibly amazing, insightful, humble, quiet people in my life. And, I still listen with my eyes. I watch people. That's what they tell me. That's, I watch people and I listen with my eyes, I say. And these guys were just incredible. They were men. They were good men.
Yeah. Oh, it's amazing. The things you've told me, it's incredible.
We were talking to you guys too, and like one of my saving graces was in my addiction of alcohol and drugs. I heard many psychiatrists talk about like a relationship between the codependent and cluster B personality disorders, narcissist in our case, that it's very much like addiction. Like we're talking not like alcohol or like heroin, like that much where the chemistry in the brain and the synapses and the serotonin, all that stuff, and the withdrawal and the cycle of abuse, it's just so intertangled. So when I started to connect the dots, I started to apply the principles of the program that I'm in to this addiction that I had with the narcissist and the obsession, and it worked. And Sharon and I both helped each other grow in our recovery separately before we met, and we both were able to gather insight and wisdom to kind of grow. And tonight we wanted to talk a little bit about attitude, and how important it is to have a desire to want to have a different attitude than at least what I used to have, because mine was pretty pessimistic, and that's just to say the least.
I was telling Joe earlier tonight, I come from a family of pessimists. It's almost like if you weren't worrying about something, that was something to worry about. You know what I mean? Like it was just down, negative people.
Well, you had a codependent mom, a narcissistic father, narcissistic brother.
Yeah.
You were pretty much the black sheep in the family.
Oh, I'm definitely the black sheep of the family even today, like for sure. But you know what? That doesn't really bother me. I'm happy with the attitude that I have. Like I'm happy with it. I wasn't always so positive.
It's hard to think, like, I know you now.
Yeah.
And you always remind me, like, Joe, I never, like, this is something I had to work my ass off at. Like this, and it reminds me of, like, yeah, I have to do something. I gotta take some action in order to have a different outlook and perspective in life.
Well, I think I used to think that I know I felt this way. The way that you think at that moment, the way that you feel, that's how you have to feel. Like, you know what I mean? If I'm depressed, well, I have no option to get out of this. Like, or if I'm sad or happiness will just come on me. Like, I don't have anything to do with it. But I've realized over the last, you guys, I had a spiritual awakening in 2016. So a lot of that stems from this time. I recognize I've learned over these years, and Joe knows this too, from his own recovery. And we want you guys to know this. You really can choose to be well. You can choose to have a better attitude. Now, that doesn't mean always 100% of the time, like, oh my gosh, my child's in a car accident, I'm still going to be happy. Like, I don't mean that, but your day-to-day outlook on life.
I think for me, it began... I don't remember really if I was still in the entanglement with the narcissist or I went no contact, but my set point has always been kind of pessimistic. When I was a little boy growing up, I know we all had childhood trauma, so there's no sob story for me. The saying I always say is childhood trauma is no excuse to be an a-hole.
Yeah.
I was still responsible for the stuff that I did, but my set point has always been like that. I thought I was kind of like doomed to feel this way my whole life, long before I ever met the narcissist. Like, I just had this, I was depressed, and to be honest, you guys, like, for somebody like me, I didn't, when you're depressed, like, chemically like that, I really didn't have a choice, but plenty of opportunities came along when I was given the opportunity to have a choice.
See, like you, I was actually a sad child as well. I was like a depressed child.
I just accepted it. Like,
yeah, me too.
Like, this is how it's supposed to be. And I was just like, okay, so the biggest feelings I could have is being okay. Like, I was afraid of, like, I did have moments of joy, but they were always, like, canceled out by extreme opposite.
See, for me, I'm curious if this is for you. As I got older, right, I was 16, 17, that range, and I started to become closer to being 18, I started to really focus on getting out of the house. Like, I took solace in that. Like, I can leave. And I can remember, this is like so pathetic and horrible when I think about it now. Now, Joe knows I never take naps, like ever, never. There was a time period, now it wasn't a long time period, it was probably like a week or two. I had this idea when I don't know how old I was in high school. And I thought, when I get home from school, if I can nap, I can cut time off where I have to be in my house with my parents, so I could somehow be unconscious.
So it was like
part of that time.
Time for you.
And I was like, this would be great, because if I did 2 hours, that's 14 hours a week. If I do 2 weeks, that's over a day. Like, I'm saving this time, you know what I mean? And over time, I mean, that's how I thought. Like, you know what I mean?
While you were doing that, years earlier, even in grade school, I started dabbling with alcohol, and to escape those feelings, and not knowing that alcohol like was a depressant in itself, and I wound up to a point where I couldn't manage it, and I really had no choice. I had to drink. I was an alcoholic,
Yeah.
and thank God, divine intervention led me to a program that taught me how to take a look at myself and my defects and my selfishness and take responsibility and make amends and turn my life around. I couldn't have done it without God, that's for sure.
You know, we said this before on the channel, and I know you guys will be able to relate to this. So when Joe says that, depending on where you are in the recovery, that can sound, what is he talking about? Like, that's absurd.
Sorry, I didn't like take you off the wheel.
No. Oh my God, no, not at all. What I mean by that is, you know, when you, like what Joe just said, that's not a secret, but kind of. If you're at the beginning stages, you're just you're finding out you're with a narcissist. To think that you have any responsibility is just, like, I used to think that, like, I didn't do anything. I was married to a narcissist. I didn't realize that the real key to recovery is not focusing on yourself in a narcissistic way, but learning about yourself, accepting responsibility, because the reality for probably all, I can't, like, I don't want to say everybody. I would think it would be almost impossible for there to be somebody with a narcissist where there were literally no red flags at all at any point in the relationship.
Or even like when I posed a question to Sharon a few years back, when I was like, what was your part in it? She was at a loss for words.
I was pissed. I was angry with you.
Yeah, and it's like an onion. You got to peel back layers and layers. It's like, so you don't feel a responsibility. Like, why did you allow yourself to be abused for 20 years?
When you said that, like, the first thing you said was, you know, that what was your part in it, right? And I was so, I don't know if offended is the right word. I was like, God, I thought this guy was a great guy. Like, what the hell? But then it was like when you said that, oh, like when I said, well, I was married to a narcissist, that was my problem. So why did you let yourself be abused for 20 years? And at that point, I was like, oh my gosh, like I got to go.
Yeah, you did actually. Just soon after that, and a day or two passed. But yeah, it's a perspective change. Like when I started looking inwards towards me, and not only that, but I always speak from my experience. I was kind of broken a little bit, to say the least, long before I met the narcissist. Yeah. You know, and I had to look at myself. But the magic is you have to have a capacity to be honest with yourself. It's part of the reason why narcissists are maladaptive, they can't change, is their defense mechanism is so finely built in that the minute they start looking at themselves, like there's projection and deflect because of the shame. It's a shame-based disorder. But when I started looking at myself in my defects, I was less concerned about the damn narcissist and more concerned with, dude, you got some work to do. And I knew that the God of my understanding, or a misunderstanding, but I knew that I needed God's help in order to do that. So somewhere along the line, the obsession of the narcissist lifted because I became a little bit more concerned with me and why I ignored the red flags. And I was looking at, okay, there's many things. What is that? Depression? Or not depression, denial. Like we talk about all these traits that narcissists have, that I was just like, I had to ask myself, damn, am I a narcissist? And I had to go through that process. But you want to talk about denial and just self-seeking, want the other person to be a certain way, and if they weren't, I'd be sad. Like, it was a codependency traits that I had written all throughout my life, and like an onion, just had to peel back layer by layer, until I got to the point where it was like, I had to admit that, you know, I did have a part to play, and I had to ask God to help me change.
And were you aware of that when you were still with a narcissist, or shortly after you left, or when did you recognize that you actually had a part to play in it and that you could do something about it?
At my point, everybody's different, I guess, but at mine is like when I went no contact.
No contact it's a game changer.
Yeah, I look at it. I always not always, but I look at it like with the alcoholic, it's like you have to put down the drink in order for there to be some kind of a beginning. Now, I did learn things while I was still drinking. I had a desire to want to get sober, but there were some things I had to learn what the problem was and what the solution was. Now, here's the thing: it's like if I don't admit or see that I was part of the problem and I don't know the full problem. Obviously, the narcissist is, they're narcissists, obviously, but I would be searching for a solution to an incomplete problem. I had to look at myself. Here's what happened. I was a couple months no contact, and I was miserable. See, everybody knows like when a narcissist is gone, they leave complete devastation in all areas of life. Well, she was out of my life. And I think my God conscious or my voice inside was just like, okay, Joe, so if the narcissist was the problem and they haven't been in your life for months, then why the hell are you so miserable and depressed and want to kill yourself and all this other happy horse stuff? And I was just like, holy crap, there's got to be something in me that might be the problem too. So that God consciousness brought about me doing the shadow work, which was looking at the inside. So it was a couple months after no contact of a complete misery. What was it like for you where, I don't know, like you started to see things a little bit more clearly?
Well, it was, this is the thing. I think if you're still with a narcissist right now, and we've all been at that point because it's a process. I don't know that this is going to help you much, except it might make you recognize that there's something beyond the horizon. Like there's something out there. Because for me, everything changed when my ex I wasn't living with him anymore.
We're trying to sow seeds. We're planting seeds. We try to and sow seeds of love. Where maybe if you're not there now, something here through osmosis or you're unconscious, you hear it.
Hope is real, and hope is so important. If you are with a narcissist right now, if you are still with a narcissist, if you don't have any hope, or you think it's never going, I can't, like I'm stuck. Like one of us is going to have to die. Hopefully it'll be the narcissist, but one of us is going to have to die. You're just, I don't know.
See, Sharon and I differ a little bit. Cause
I don't know what I'm saying. Sorry.
You're okay, honey. Sharon and I differ. Like it's a catch on words. We mean the same thing, but for me, here's the irony. I had to be hopeless in order to find hope. What I mean by that is I had to finally look at this relationship as an entanglement that no matter what I did or said, that other person was never going to change, that our quote-unquote relationship was hopeless. Through that hopelessness, I was desperate. I had to reach out to God. And I started building a relationship with God, which gave me hope. So through being hopeless, like...
See, I never had like a hopelessness. I know what you're saying
like,
with the narcissist.
That's what I mean. Like, I had to be hopeless in the situation I was at with the narcissist in order to point me in the direction where I could find hope.
See, all right, you tell me.
Otherwise, I would have kept on trying to make the relationship work.
See, that wasn't how it was for me. Like with me, it wasn't that. It wouldn't have mattered if I was hopeless and him changing or not. It didn't matter. Like there came a point where I did not want to be with this person, even if they changed. So it wasn't like I didn't care, I guess is what it was.
Well,
I didn't care.
I guess everybody's situation is different, which is kind of cool. That's why I love this channel, you guys, because I'm a dude. Sharon's a very bright, intelligent young lady. So you got different genders.
I'll pay after this.
Different backgrounds and different experiences. Because we want to try to reach a wide variety of people of all ages. But Sharon definitely had a different kind of recovery, which is why I think you created a channel. Like, not all of us have that drive and like motivation to start a channel to try to help other people out. Yours was a little bit different.
I think I did have a different recovery. I really did. And I do fear sometimes, I told you this, Joe, that one day it's going to be 5 years from now and all of a sudden I'm going to be like hit hard. Because for me, once there came a point where I just couldn't stand my ex. Like I literally loathed him. I could not stand him. So there was never a time where I was like, well, maybe it could work out, or like there just wasn't. Like the thought of him made me revolt. It was just so disgusting.
No, to be honest with you, at the end, I got the same way, but I was with this through affairs and everything else for 20 years, the first 15 years, 17, 18, probably 18 years, it was always, we can make this work. We can make this work. Based on my childhood trauma, when my parents got divorced and my father left and my mother was an alcoholic, it was like, I didn't want my kids to grow up that way, and it was a self-fulfilled prophecy. So I guess at the end, yeah, I could not stand her. I had to sleep with my wallet underneath my pillow, and just, it was horrible.
But there came this time, though, even with that type of
Long
devastation.
before, like yours was long before, like 5 or 6 years. You said like 2016 or so.
20, yes, that's true. 2016, I had a spiritual awakening, you guys. Like this, I know this sounds weird, but this really did happen on April. It was April 20. Well, it was April 21st, 2016. But it was really a week before that. So I'll just say this: my ex was unemployed. I'll tell you this, then the April 21st story. So my ex was unemployed. He'd gotten laid off, and he was unemployed for 6 months. Now I was a stay-at-home mom, and we lived in a house with a $3,000 mortgage. I was so freaked out when he wasn't getting a job. He would go on interviews, never any callbacks. And there was some statistic I read or saw that after 6 months, your odds of getting a job are cut. And I was freaking out. We had this new house. We had lived in there for a year, and I decided one day I was going to go clean my basement. So I go down just to get myself, just to distract myself. And no, I had no relationship with God. I would have told you I believed in God, but I didn't have a relationship with him. All of a sudden, now this wasn't audible, but in my head, I just heard the words, be still and know that I am God. I was so struck by that. Now I know, Joe and I have that quote around the house. Like I see if you go to Hobby Lobby, they have little signs. Like I know it's around. I would swear in a Bible. I don't believe I've ever heard that before. Like I didn't read a Bible. I never read a Bible. I believed in God, but he was really Santa Claus. I knew God spoke to me. I knew it at that time. And immediately after that, I walked, I was so shocked that this happened to me. I could barely, I just couldn't believe it. It was so stunning to me. I went upstairs to tell my ex, and he ran into me, and he's like before I could even say anything, he said, I just got a job. At the exact moment that God said that to me. A week later, this was April 21st, 2016, I was in my bathroom. Some of you guys know this story. And all of a sudden, I was listening to the radio. The radio announcer said something. Well, actually, he said that Prince had died. So he said that Prince had died. And when he said that, something just took me back to something. I had been in a relationship before, and I had done something in the relationship that I conveniently forgot about. And this it sounds weird, but it just started this whole thing where I started changing, and I wasn't codependent anymore. Once I was no longer codependent, and this happened instantaneously, it was over with my ex, and he collapsed, guys, spectacularly. Paris even says sometimes, she's like, I think he's still collapsing. And this is a thing. And tell me your thoughts on this, Joe. If you were in an entanglement with a narcissist, because of what happened to me, I realized I actually had all the power in the relationship. I was holding it up. The marriage was me. What do you think about that?
That's incredible, because for me, it was the exact opposite.
Oh.
Yeah. I was like, there was a point where my ex was like yours, a psychopath. When I thought I was screwed, I was going to lose the house. I was going to lose the kids. Like, she was going to take everything that she could.
You were really worried about finances, right?
Well, yes. Okay. And it's not just money. It sounds like superficial, but all the blood, sweat, and tears I put
that
into
doesn't sound weird to me. I know, like, you bought this house, take care of this house, and yeah, I get that.
You know, it was, and she's capable of anything. And we had disillusionment that was notarized, signed by a lawyer and all this stuff. Money was exchanged to leave, and she reneged on it. And that's when I started to spiral. I was just like, and she stole the car.
So do you just
after no contact.
Powerless, like there was just literally like this, there's nothing you can do?
All I could do was hang on and breathe. And my God, CPTSD, like times 10, hypervigilant, anxiety disorders, tunnel vision, just pay the mortgage, make sure you get to kids' school, be there as best as you can. But oh my God. So I was the exact opposite.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it, when you think about that? So probably any of you listening would be somewhere
Either or,
in between. Yeah, yeah. But for me, you guys, there was just that point after I wasn't codependent anymore. And I get like it's usually a process for people. I just, you guys, like there was like this time when my ex used to come, like there was like, he used to come into the house, not talk to us, and like sit in this chair staring at the wall. All right. And it was so creepy and weird. I can remember just hating him. Like I would just, why is he like this? What? Yeah, I was just angry with him and hated him. But I felt trapped. I did feel trapped at that time. I felt like I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
But I kept moving forward. I just kept focusing on my kids, and eventually, I was saved.
Yeah, and that's the miracle of it. After we
But you were too, right?
yeah, 100%. After, like, we had to go back to court like 5 times. We had to come up with money for attorney. But once, like, the legal part of it was over, that's when I was like, but the whole time up until that point, I was building up my self-worth. Like, I got what did you say I should get? Like a no,
Oh, and no, oh my gosh, a restraining order.
yeah, restraining order on her. That was my first move to like protect myself from her. Now, guys, I'm 6'2". I used to play football and all kinds of sports. I'm not talking like physically, even though she was capable of killing me. She probably would have if I would have got away with it. There's a couple comments she made before about poisoning and some other crap.
Well, there was some other things too, like Joe and I, like we're like I'm a Second Amendment person, so we are armed, and I think when she found that out too, that was probably a benefit as well.
Yeah, because I like Sharon's the one that has the permit and all that stuff. There's two things that Joe can't have in his life. Well, three actually. Alcohol/drugs, that's one. A gun and a motorcycle, because I'll wind up killing myself some way, shape, or form. But yeah, Sharon, she's a little thing, man. She's so petite. She don't play around. She's got a gun. She knows how to use it too, which is kind of cool. I know the dude should have the gun in the house and this and that, but I could kick somebody's ass, and if not, then Sharon's got the gun, so we're covered either way. So it was when legally, because she was also a drug addict, but very hardcore drugs.
This is his ex, not me.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The ex was hardcore, and the people that she hung out with, if you want to call them that, and the places that she went to are no good, and it's a whole different world there that I've been down before. It was just, she's dangerous.
But the thing is, once you get, like, I think we're kind of going a little bit off track.
Yeah, we're talking about attitude. Let's wrap it into attitude.
So let's like just talk about that. How did you get, like, now when I look at you, and I know you really well, but when I first met you, right, 2 years ago, you were more pessimistic. But of course, that was also, we're still in the middle of the entanglement.
Yeah.
What is your view on how your life can be after the narcissist?
I had a desire, like, I knew I couldn't live miserable for the rest of my life. I knew that I didn't want to die necessarily, because I got kids I still got to raise. But I had a desire. So I actually I had to take action that bettered myself spiritually. And then eventually
Were you doing that consciously?
Yes. I was like, okay, Joe, you get off your ass, you pray, have your relationship with God, but he'll do the impossible, but you got to do the possible. Part of that was stepping up on my own recovery program, because it's not just about abstinence from alcohol. It's about like a spiritual way of living. And there were certain things that I could do that. So I started stepping up in it. Then, like at that time, I believe I was in such a depressive state that if somebody would have said, well, it's a choice, you can be happy, I would have told them, go screw yourself, you know nothing. I believe that you could get in that kind of state, but I had the desire, was taking action, and like God somewhere along the line gave me a choice, like the choice back, where I remember you saying, like, you could choose to be happy today, and I was like, hell yeah, like I could choose to be happy today. And I started taking advantage of that choice in a good way to say, okay, let's be happy today. See, the thing that sucks, you guys, is life is what it is. Like, no matter what the outcome is going to be, it's still going to be. But the whole time until then, like I have a bad attitude. The same thing's going to happen if I have a good attitude. But I didn't have that choice. But when I took action, I was given that choice back, and life is just totally different. My perspective, everything.
One thing I like to do on this channel, if I can do it, if I did it, or Joe, you, or someone I know it's possible. I completely changed my life. Like, it's almost like I shouldn't even say that. That's not true. God changed my life. Like, I didn't do anything, but
You stayed out of the way.
yeah, I stayed out of the way. But you guys, I used to be such afraid of my own shadow. I just like, and I didn't start the entanglement like that, but it became that way. It was horrible. Like what I was reduced to. When I sit here and I tell you on the channel, like I did not have any friends. I'm not saying, well, I had a couple friends, but not a lot. Like literally none. I had no support. I don't have a supportive family. I was isolated alone with my ex. And, I used to want him to pass away. That was like my dream. I was like, oh, just he could do that, have life insurance money, he could pay off the house, it would be all right. Like, I'm thinking that way. And I know it's horrible, but I'm being real with you. That's what I thought.
Yeah, that was the only way I thought it was going to end, was if I die or she dies.
Yeah, exactly. But I realize now, if that had happened, so just keep this in mind. If you're with a narcissist and you're hoping that happens and you're like disappointed, I used to beg God to take my ex out. Like God was Santa Claus and my hitman. That's how I looked at him. I mean, he was, you know what I mean? But that's what I did. If that had happened, if say that my ex had passed away or whatever, I would have still been, I think that would have been worse for me, because if I died codependent, I always would be codependent. I think I would have been like a hermit. And I mean that for real.
Or like switch seats in the Titanic, so to speak, and find somebody else who was just as sick as you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I wouldn't have had a healthy relationship if I had one. I felt so bad and down about myself. I don't think I could have gone on a date with somebody or even met somebody.
God has a way of taking the worst examples of situations where Sharon and I were in these entanglements for 20 years of marriage. And if you heard our story, then car stolen, electric turned off, like kids to take care of. And he has a way of saying that, using us as an example, like if we could do it, anyone could do it. We were beyond human aid.
And I think it's important to say this as well, because I know this is what I would think if I was listening to this. Yeah, but you had each other.
What do I say about the word but? Anything after but is what?
I'm not going to say, you say it.
Bullshit. So I always use however.
Right, however, I would think, well, yeah, but you're in a relationship, so it's easier for you, or whatever. Or
we weren't.
I know. Or you could say, I'm just thinking of things people might say, or
that happened to you, but it won't happen to me.
Yeah, or like maybe I had money, or I had to support a family, because I would think this about other people. Yeah, but you have this. Yeah, but you have that. Yeah. It was never, of course I can do this. And once I changed and started thinking, yeah, you know what? I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. And every day I would wake up in the morning. I would focus. I'm going to have a good day today. I'm going to do this with the kids. I'm going to do that. I got to take my dogs here. I got to do that. And I did it. And over time, I just, like, you guys want to hear something? I'll tell you this. I want to tell you, when I first started, it was in December. My ex, I kicked him out the first week of December. And I started finding out that he wasn't paying any bills. And I was legit thinking my kids were going to find me dead. Like, I was going to have a heart attack. I wasn't sleeping. I was panicked. I could feel my heart skipping beats. I was absolutely terrified. No, I had no family, no friends, like just me and the kids. We were just alone in this big house, with 40 acres of woods behind us, all these animals. And I'm like, I'm going to drop dead. My kids are going to find me dead in the morning. And I'm trying to think of a way to tell my kids, like, oh my gosh, like, what to do if they found me dead. I don't want them to say it. I didn't want to say I might be dead, but I'm thinking of my daughter's best friend's mother lived like right down the street. I'm like, all right, I could tell them to just, if something happened. That was where I came from. And one day I decided, no, and it was a decision I made, like an active decision. I am not going to let my kid, I can't let them down. I wanted to be a mother my entire life. When I was like in grade school, I wanted to be a mother. So for me to have these beautiful children and to actually let them down, and they already have like a messed up father, that's like very obvious. I can't be some mother that is in constant distress and is always like down and depressed and can't do anything. And my kids are going to be like me, can't wait to leave the house. So I legitimately made a decision. I wasn't going to let that happen. So I started doing things that I didn't want to do, that I didn't feel comfortable. And I have a good friend, Chip. Joe knows Chip too. This is the last thing I'll say, and then you can go ahead and speak.
No, go ahead.
I just think it's important to know this. I didn't have anything. After my ex left, I was under investigation from Child Protective Services because my ex tried to he wanted to get me arrested. He lied to the police, filed a false police report, but that led to a 2-month investigation. When it was over, I was like, I'm going to live. I'm going to live. And I was at church one day and I saw this Bible study group. Now, you guys, now I would do that. Then I think my kids were shocked. And I was like, I think I might do this. And when I was there, the first day I was there, this guy, Chip, I didn't know him at all. He went to the church. I stupidly, I was the only one there that didn't bring a Bible, right? So I'm at this Bible Bible study with no Bible. This is the sweetest thing. Like, you guys are probably going to be like, okay, whatever, but it meant so much to me. And it was like the start that, people could like me. He said to me, you don't have your Bible? And he gave me his Bible. So he sat there without a Bible so I could have a Bible. I was so touched by that. It was such a turning point in my life. And it sounds so stupid, right? Because I would do that at a group here. Like, I would do that, not think anything of it. But the way I felt about myself, and to have someone do that, I was so touched by that. Like, it really, really meant a lot to me. But it showed me that you can make a difference. And you never know when that turning point's going to be. So if you just keep, I'm probably annoying you, just keep going, keep walking.
Sharon nonchalantly hit the nail on the head. Like, I think we all at some point suffer from PMS. What I mean by that is we were physically, mentally, and spiritually bankrupt. The direction that Sharon and I went, we have to give props to the person that deserves the credit, is Jesus.
Amen.
When I opened up my Bible, now, I'm not pushing or Bible thumping anybody. Whatever, if you have a God of your understanding or even misunderstanding, if you practice whatever it is that you believe in or don't believe in, I was desperate enough to go back to my childhood faith that was already planted when I was a young boy. That's when things started to change. And, as I said, if you guys believe in something different or whatever, if you don't believe in it, if you have an open mind to say perhaps, maybe, the universe has a way of showing you things that you need to do in order to learn your lesson. So that's when things started to finally change. And it's funny, guys, I unfortunately have a high tolerance for pain. Like, I have to be near dying to ask for help because of my ego, my pride. And I knew, like, in the back of my head, sometimes I would listen to some stories on YouTube where, people started reading the Bibles again or in listening to God's word. It's like I had that Bible up in my room, but I just couldn't open it. It was just, it's a spiritual warfare. And for Sharon and I, there's a lot of, like, heavy, negative, low bottom frequency, demonic energy, like, created through this narcissist and from your own childhood ghosts into generations of garbage. But it's when I started to actively pursue a relationship with the God of my understanding is when things, I guess, started to change. Life is life. I can't change the narcissist. I can't change or determine or predict outcomes. Maybe I could try to, like, forecast at best, but it's when, like, I started building that relationship with God of my understanding is when I started to change. And I had to be desperate enough to cry out for help to him. And he is faithful, and he was there for me.
That's the most important thing to recognize. And I love that. God is faithful. He is. Joe and I, we have been through so much. And this whole, this whole thing from that moment in December when they kicked my ex out, right? And out all the way until right now, it was all a decision. And now I do believe that God was behind this, but it was a decision every single day. I wanted to be a good mother. Like that, I wanted to be a good mother. I didn't want to let my kids down. So I started doing things. I did things. I always, as time has gone by, I've really been able to listen to God. And if I hear him, if I believe I'm supposed to do something, I do it, even if I don't want to, even if I'm afraid. And that has made all the difference.
There's a saying, one of my mentors told me all the time. He said, Joe, your mind's like a bad neighborhood. You don't want to be there and alone. And I actually had to...
I told your son that. He thought that was hilarious, by the way. Yeah.
I had to be out of my mind in order to find God, if that makes any sense. And this is Sharon and I's truth. You have your own truth. And God, it's such an awesome adventure to, like, deep within inside, to look inward, not outward, but inward, to touch base with the source of life, your creator, and to walk hand in hand with him, her, it, however you decide to be, but it's our truth. it's just, it changed everything. I thought that I lost my dream, and what happened was he took away a nightmare. And I know this is the spiritual experience. I know that I was in an impossible situation. There was no way in heaven or hell that I could get out of there alone. And no matter how much love I got from my friends and my relatives, like that love could not get me out of this. That I know. So in a way, I always say this: we sought and we found. We're finders. We're not seekers anymore. We found. We believed, but we know. And it's through that spiritual experience with God that we're able to say. And as I said before, man, I'm a normal dude. Like I
We always both feel weird talking about religion like that because
well,
we don't want to come across like we're trying to convert
we're-
anybody.
yeah,
We're
and-
just telling you
our truth.
Yeah.
And we're not trying to put up walls and fences, because somebody would have told me 20 years ago, you need to find God, or this is, my walls would have went up and there was no way you're going to reach in. So it's our truth, but I think everybody has their own truth. And I know what works for Joe.
Well, it just, you know what it is? I think it comes down to having hope, believing. Because if I was still with my ex, or when I was with my ex, for me, I started doing what God told me to do. And sometimes also things can happen, like terrible, terrible things, and it ends up being something fantastic.
I wanted to ask you, like, for many, many years, I ignored my gut instinct, especially with the narcissist. There was red flags all over the place.
Yeah.
And I ignored it. And it's like, somehow, like, my gut instinct is connected to, like, that God conscious, that voice, where when I started listening to it too, like, I just knew this is what I need to do. When I started listening to it, good things started happening.
So even if me too, no matter what stage you're in, whether you're in recovery, whether you're still with a narcissist, the best advice that I can give you is it doesn't always have to be this way. It just doesn't. Like, things can change. Things change for me. Things change for Joe. And it wasn't because we're in a relationship. It wasn't because I had a lot of money or Joe had money and family and relatives. It's because we did it ourselves when we followed God is what happened. Amazing things can happen. Miracles can happen. It is absolutely incredible. So when you're going through this, remember, you could look back on this and realize, wow, because I went through some bad, bad times. When I first, I know this video is getting long, so I'll try to wrap it up. When I first was going through this with God, when he released me from, the codependence, I went through 4 months of hell. It was so bad. I didn't think I was going to survive. Like, terrible things happened to me during this time. God was working on me, but it hurt bad. It was so painful. Today, I can sit here and tell you that had to happen. That was one of the best things for whatever reason. Pain is a catalyst for change. Pain, changes. I can't remember the phrase I heard. Something like it prepares the soil for growth. It does.
And for anybody out there that's suffering, a couple things that used to help me throughout the day. One was a question I asked myself: whatever happened, was it a tragedy or was it an inconvenience? Thank God, 90% of the time, 99% of the time, it was an inconvenience. Everybody gets to turn on the wheel. Another thing, and I share this with you because it's so important, and it saved my life. I would have panic attacks about 2 or 3 times a week, bad, in the middle of the night. And I would get on the phone and talk with Sharon, and we would remind each other, okay, do you need to do anything or make any decision right now? Like, right now, do you gotta? No. Your answer was no. Do you have, where are you sleeping? Oh, in a bed? Okay. Do you have food? Yeah, I got food in the fridge. Is your electric on? Yeah, it's on. Do you have a car? Yeah, I got transportation to get my kid back and forth to work. Usually, well, all the time actually, I always had what I needed. And as I kept on naming off things, I found out that I have an abundance of what I need. I have more than what I need. That's the truth. God has taken care of me from the womb to the tomb. It's always been okay. I've always gotten through the worst of stuff. He's always carried me through. So if anybody's suffering like that, those are like some recommendations you could ask yourself. And if you have your needs met and then some, that's the truth. It's an abundance of blessings. It's just the way we have to change our perspective. The way we see things is a change in our attitude. And for me, it's gratitude as an action word.
Is also one thing that really helped me, and I hope it will help somebody. I used to think to myself, like, I don't want to deal with this. I just want my ex to be a good husband. I want him to be a good dad. I don't want to have to deal with this. I just want it all to go away. If you live your life just wanting it all to go away, the reality is, if you're in a situation like this, you have to take action as much as you don't want to. And it could be little steps. I'm not saying take action tomorrow and leave the narcissist, but you are in a terrible situation. It's like if you're in a house fire. You're not going to sit there pretending that the house isn't burning down around you.
Yeah, how did it catch on fire? I wonder what started it.
Yeah, exactly. You get the hell out. So this is an emergency situation. Narcissists don't change. It doesn't get better. It's only going to get worse, particularly when because then you see things so
it's
much.
It's hard to go back. Like, once you know the truth of what's going on, it's hard to stay in denial.
You couldn't just go back. You know what? All right, he's a narcissist. She's a narcissist. But I'm just going to pretend they're not and live my life.
It changes. It changes when you realize, like, holy crap. It's the beginning. It's like, it's knowing knowing the problem. You got to know the problem in order to find the solution. But until you know the second equation of that problem, which is not just the narcissist but yourself, there's no change that's going to happen.
So I'm going to end it there because this video is very long. Joe, how long do you think the video's been?
I don't know. I had a good time, though. I hope we helped somebody else.
I hope so, too. You and I get chatting, and here we go.
Sometimes if I hear somebody talking and it's really good, like a preacher or like somebody's sharing their experience, I almost don't want them to stop, So hopefully this was one of those kind of videos. I hope so, you guys.
I hope so, too. All right, so I will be with you guys on Thursday, and Joe will be back next week, right?
God willing, if I'm still breathing and above the ground, yeah.
All right, then.
There's my positive attitude.
With that positive attitude, I hope you guys have a wonderful week. We will see you next week, and I'll see you on Thursday. Bye.
God bless you guys.